give me this weird look and be like, "You're sadistic, aren't you?" Hey, it's Sahreth. I'm diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and PTSD, and I have a really good therapist now. I love her, and I've seen her for about, I want to say 6, 7-ish years. I don't know the exact math, but somewhere around there. And she's great, but before I found her, I went through a long line of therapists, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. The first therapist I saw, I was 18, and they worked at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, where I was a patient. And they basically told me the stuff I had going on with the schizophrenia. They didn't say schizophrenia, they just said the symptoms and listed the symptoms. Wasn't really something they treated. First of all, they didn't prescribe medication, and second, they were more about helping kids and families cope with having, this serious illnesses that the hospital treated. It was more for that. So they told me, you need to find an adult therapist, someone who can work on your specific issues. And so I found, it was actually my mother-in-law's psychiatrist, and the therapist at that office wasn't really bad. I didn't click with him, but he wasn't like, I don't really have a reason for not liking him. The psychiatrist herself I did not like. She was a nice person, but she was a co-creator of a certain psychotropic medicine, and apparently she tended to prescribe her patients this medication regardless of what they had going on. And she also, my mother-in-law was a drug addict, and so she would prescribe stuff to my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law should not have been getting, despite the fact. So I didn't really have any faith in them. So the next person I saw was very religious. He was an older gentleman, and he kept inviting me. I went to see him like once or twice, and he kept inviting me to go to church, and all of his advice to me was to try to talk to God and try to fix the things I was doing in my life, and things like nothing to do with my actual psychiatric symptoms. Just like, oh, well, if you're right with God, if you do these things, you'll be fine. Obviously that didn't work out. The next therapist I had, I don't really remember what happened. I remember having them for a few sessions, and then the scheduling department switched me over to a different therapist. So I don't really remember what happened with that one. So the next therapist at that same place told me that they didn't really think I was schizophrenic. I'm sorry. At this point, I had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, not schizoaffective. And they were more of the mind that I was seeing spirits and whatnot, which I do believe in. But I know that all of my problems aren't being caused by ghosts. So that didn't really work out. So the next therapist they set me up with, she was telling me a story from her childhood. Apparently she was raised as a carny or whatever it's called. And there was a new performer or clown or something that nobody liked, and so some of the guys set this new person on fire. And the way she was describing it, what I was seeing in my head was this cartoonish guy running around in circles, finally grabbing a pot of water and dumping it on him, and the fire sizzles out, and he's perfectly fine. For whatever reason, that's where my mind went when I was trying to visualize this scenario. So I laughed before I realized that, this was an actual guy who probably got second-degree burns or worse because these people set him on fire because they didn't like him. So it took my mind a minute to realize this is not a funny story. Anyway, not in time for her to give me this weird look and be like, "You're sadistic, aren't you?" Legitimate, her words to me. And I was like, well, no, it was just, I tried to explain it, she wouldn't listen. A session ended, and the next week I was supposed to go back in. I got a call and said that they had to cancel my appointment because they needed to transfer me to a different therapist. Apparently she didn't like me. And then the next therapist moved after I had seen her like 3 times, I want to say. And so the next therapist, her dad died or something, and I'd only seen her a couple times. So I got another new therapist, and this one also saw me for 1 session, and then what I was told was, oh, we got to switch you to someone else again, because so-and-so doesn't think you're the right fit for them. So that could have just been they didn't really specialize in psychosis or something like that. I don't know. No one told me. But anyway, so I went through several different therapists at the one office alone. And then I was going to go back in to see the psychiatrist there, right? But they were going under a change in management or change in ownership or something. And for the years I'd been with them, they were very understanding of the fact, like, my social anxiety, especially back then, was so high, and just my anxiety in general was so high. They were lenient about if I had to call in last minute and be like, I can't make it inside, my anxiety won't let me leave. The people who got switched over to were very strict on you have to cancel. It was like 48 hours ahead of time or something like that. Which I was not, I did not realize that had changed. And so I called in like a few hours before my appointment and was like, I can't do it today. And so they're like, okay, well, you didn't call us 48 hours ahead of time and let us know. We have to boot you as a patient. You have to come back in and resubmit, everything and become a patient. Well, that was going to take time because there was a waiting list at that point. It was like 6 months or something just for new patients. And I'm like, well, what about my medicine? They're like, well, we can't prescribe it for, such and such amount of time. And so I ended up going cold turkey off of a antipsychotic, mood stabilizer, a anxiety med, and then a medicine that I had to help with the side effects of the other medicines. Oh, and I was on a pill to help with the nightmares from the PTSD. So I went on all of that cold turkey because I'm like, well, I'm not going to have it anyway. And so my mind was just like, might as well just stop now. And I did, and I had a lot of not just my normal symptoms come in, but even worse because I was in withdrawal from all the medication I'd been on. I ended up in the psych ward, and then the psych ward stabilized me and set me out and set me up an appointment with the therapist that I have now. And I've been with her since, and she is great, like I said. But yeah, so it's kind of a long road, though, to find a therapist. And not just any therapist, but a therapist I actually like and trust them to do their job, because some of the other ones I couldn't open up to. I didn't really, I had respect for them, like basic respect as a person, but as far as a therapist that could help me, I didn't really have respect for them in that degree. And the therapist I have now, she clocked my personality pretty quickly after I saw her. She's very intuitive and perceptive, and she immediately knew kind of how to respond to me in a way that I would be receptive to it. She knows that she can't just be too soft. She has to be kind of forward and direct, and at times maybe not aggressive is the right word, but a little bit more forceful, or I'm not going to listen. Blunt, maybe. But anyway, so I always tell people, just because a couple therapists don't work out, don't think, okay, none of this is ever going to work. Because there are plenty of really good therapists out there, different personalities, different approaches, and someone is going to fit, someone's going to help. This is probably one of my most rambly videos, I think. But that is all. Like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. And hopefully I'll see y'all in another video. Bye.